Welcome back to another episode of Dad Bod Fantasy Squad. I'm here with Brian, Cody, and a very special guest, Brandon, who goes by @StatWiz on Twitter. How's it going, all you guys?
Good in my world.
Well,
I set you guys up for, I do this to everyone all the time. I set you guys all up to talk right over each other. So I appreciate all the answers, but we do have an exciting episode for everyone. We're going to be talking about some ADP bargains and ADP faders. So before we get into that, I wanted to get the moment to let Brandon introduce himself, kind of go where to find him and what he's planning on doing in the fantasy content world.
you are too kind. As you've stated, right now the only way to get me is @StatWiz on Twitter. Currently got some side projects working with DLF. Ultimately, I've just got some really big goals, looking to use this platform to do a lot of positive change.
Yeah, and we were talking before, and we follow him on Twitter, and he's always very active on Twitter, putting out questions. One of the questions he brought up to us was, are you buying, selling, or holding on Tyreek Hill for Dynasty? And so he's always putting those questions out onto his Twitter, so make sure you go follow him. Check out the content that he's producing. He's active. Some really good stuff over there. Brian, you had a busy weekend.
What's up? I had a very busy weekend.
You gonna tell us what happened, dude? Are you gonna
I'll
tell
tell
us
you
about
all
it? Or you
about
just
it,
gonna?
because I think
All right, because
no,
look, you've been waiting to do this
I'll
rant.
just bring you along a bit. Oh yeah, I have a lot of things. A lot of things happened this weekend, especially if you consider yourself a father figure or having a father figure. So first off, took my daughter to the Home Depot workshop. They have those every Saturday, first of the month. They're great. You can take them in, build something for free. We built a little fish tank aquarium. I should have had it with me. I didn't even think of it.
You should have.
Shout out
Yeah,
Home
oh
Depot
my
for
God.
that.
You're a terrible father.
I am a terrible father.
show
Well,
the
she
work.
sleeps with it. I mean, she's pumped. She loves it.
She's-
Where,
Sleeps in
I was going to say,
aquarium?
where is it currently?
It is her. I didn't let her paint it, and I made it all for her. She would have done a terrible job. On Friday, I got an MRI on my shoulder, which doctors think I have labrum. So going in on tomorrow to figure out how well that's holding up and if it's holding up. We finally picked out a
Stand on
refrigerator.
the
We
IR coming.
picked out a washer dryer combo.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
Right,
the IR.
Definitely going to be hitting the IR soon.
We won't
and
see him
finally
on
today
Monday.
we went to
Listen.
the zoos.
Brandon, real quick.
Anytime you
just so
need
you know,
something
he's
from me
not
now
worth
on,
stashing.
I'm injured.
You need to drop him.
I'm
Just
not.
drop him.
He's
He isn't
not worth
worth it.
stashing.
No way.
I mean,
No
instant
potential,
cut.
no upside. He's already 30. Welcome to Dropsville.
Oh, we
What
need
if the
that
guy in
drop.
front of him gets hurt?
Yeah. Still nothing.
He's full
No value
strength,
there.
So yeah.
He can't throw past
Cody,
6
did you do
yards.
anything?
Yeah,
You
you
can't,
know,
Brian?
my
Go
weekend
ahead.
was pretty low key. We really just hung out outside. You know, it wasn't too hot, nice weather. We just enjoyed outside and did a lot of grilling. Threw ribeyes on the old charcoal beast this evening as well. So nothing crazy. What about you, Mario?
Did you have your New
Those were
Balance
ribeyes? I
on
thought
when
that
you were
was
grilling?
chicken.
Tonight? No, those babies were ribeyes. No, I didn't have the ribeyes. I was rocking the 10-year-old rubber Walmart sandals, and 10-year-old is on the light end.
I think you just said I didn't have the ribeyes, and then you went to talking about your sandals, so it
Sandals,
sounded like
yeah.
you didn't have your ribeyes. You weren't wearing them. I didn't do much either. Excuse me, sorry. I got my bed, created the bed in the backyard, put some rock outline, looks crispy, added the mulch, so finally
Did
got
you
the
say you
back done a
got
little bit.
in
But I
your
did.
bed? Like you got in your flower bed?
Yeah, I got in there. I dug in.
Yeah.
I also went golfing with Alex, who's another member of the Dad Bod Squad, and this dude brought 4 natter days. I know it's not a lot, but I don't know if you guys have ever had natter days. Dude, they're okay flavor wise. But I was like, is he gonna make me feel like crap afterwards and like, have the same sort of
I don't
effect that a natty would? He's like,
what that is. Can you pull up a picture?
I don't have a picture.
You
of
don't know
it
what a
anymore.
Natter Days is?
They're pink lemonade, Brian. You probably would
Never
know.
heard of that.
Natty Light
It
makes
has
them.
it has all of the effect of a natural ice though, or natty light,
Yeah,
whatever. It has
yeah.
all the after effects. So fair warning to that.
They're
Brandon, did you do
very
anything?
like they're very sweet. Like 2 of them, and you better call it quits. Or you're not gonna feel well.
For sure, sweet, yeah.
Ugh.
Brandon, how was your weekend? Did you do anything cool, fun?
No, I'm a pretty boring individual. Just hang out with the kids and be fat. Rock the dad bod, so to speak.
Dude,
There you
you're
go.
welcome
There you
here.
go.
Yeah. What a great.
That's what it was. Is I was getting ready for the live stream, so I had to pack a couple of lbs on.
Yeah,
I like it.
that's good, dude.
Didn't want to be showed up.
All right, so we definitely are going to get into football. I promise. I did want to do one thing, and I'm sorry, I am kind of springing this on you, Brandon, because I didn't give you any warning about this. I kind of just wanted your first word answers to a couple questions. So before we hop into news,
lightning
and then
round.
finally our ADP, it's a lightning round, 1-word response. I'm just going to read some questions to you. You ready?
Let's roll it.
Favorite NFL team?
Lions.
Ouch.
Ooh. Favorite? Well, we're the Browns. Favorite
As a
NFL
Browns
player?
fan, yeah.
Lamar Jackson.
I like it. Recent show you've watched?
Schitt's Creek.
Can we
Recent
say
movie
that?
you've watched?
Can we say that?
Oh God, I haven't watched a movie in God knows how long. Just to be honest,
None?
I never have time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Early bird or night owl?
Early bird.
Cat or dog person?
Both.
Oh, nice. Drink of choice is the last one.
Michelob.
The Ultras.
And I did have one more question, but I already found the answer to it. It was, are you married? Are you a dad? Saw that on your Twitter. He is a fellow, and he just mentioned it, fellow dad bodder. That doesn't sound good. Fellow dad squad member. What? Cody, help me out here.
Other figure.
Yeah, I would just go with squad member.
None of it sounds good. He's
All
part
of
of
the
the
above.
dad bod squad.
All
Yeah.
the above.
I don't know if you guys saw it. I dropped it on here earlier. I'll drop it again. Our buddy from Hawaii says hello. Hey, Juan.
Aloha.
Bonjour.
Let's get into some news. I'm going to kick off, and I'm going to go kind of around the horn here. So Brian's the next one up. I'm going to start with him. Jerry Jeudy leaves practice with a groin injury. Brian, does this mean anything? Is it too early?
Yes and no. He came back to practice. So some people might think it's
Did
not a
not
big
play.
deal. But then again, if you think back to last year, Curtis Samuel had a groin injury during the summer, and then it lasted all year, and he flopped. So could mean nothing, could mean something. I was staying away either way. Do you, Cody?
Instantly stab at Cody. Stab.
Yeah.
No, I think you bring up a good point about Curtis Samuel, though. Aaron Donald restructured deal. Cody, does that mean anything?
I don't think it's totally shocking. Obviously, he toyed with the idea of retiring, but he's the greatest to ever do it at his position. So it's fun either way. Regardless of what the impact is, it's nice to still have a guy like that in the league.
Not much fantasy impact, though, huh?
Nope.
I mean, obviously, the Rams defense, but
Yeah.
I don't.
But yeah,
I don't think any of us expected the other outcome.
agreed.
Dalton Schultz told team he intends to skip the remainder of voluntary OTAs as he waits for a new deal. Brandon, does that mean anything?
It means it's a slow news day, but aside from that, no.
Yes.
Really?
Now, not to Mario. Mario loves Dalton Schultz, so this is important news to him.
That's true, because it really was It makes me a little bit nervous. I have loaded up on him in best ball, so I am a little bit nervous.
He's just trying to
James-
play Debo, it seems.
Trying to play Debo and hold
Maybe.
out. Yeah.
Well, have a good year and then get the bag.
Yep.
Debo's is the worst, and we will get into that. James Robinson running again.
it's funny
Anybody
you
want to
brought
go
that-
on this one?
It's funny you brought that James Robinson is running again, because I just saw like a tweet today that said Travis Etienne is getting the goal line carries at practice, and it had the eyes like this. And it's like,
What
get
do
him.
people expect?
There's nobody else there.
Yeah.
What, is he gonna walk into the end
Snoop,
zone?
Snoop coming in.
Yeah. That's part of that, though, is why I think ETN's a little underdrafted right now. But I mean, if J-Rob comes back, we'll see. But Achilles tear is nothing
It's
to.
a rough one. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's really bad. And I mean, we haven't really seen anybody come back from it either.
No, I mean, Cam Akers is we're going to test it more than just playoffs. Marlon Mack hasn't really shown anything. Donta Foreman, we've mentioned this on other shows. Torn Achilles is kind of scary for RBs.
Very rough.
Well, let's get into the meat and potatoes, boys, shall we?
Absolutely.
We are going to
I like
start
meat.
off with ADP bargains. And because I have it here in front of me, Brian's going to get lucky and start us off here. Brian, can you kick us off with a quarterback? Somebody you're buying.
Quarterback that I love, that Rob hates. Tua Tagovailoa. And he is currently going at once QB 17. I think if you are going to, wait on a quarterback, I think this guy is a great one to wait on. You're not really going to get the rushing totals from him because of that gruesome hip injury that he had. It's pretty disgusting that he's currently going after Justin Fields, because who is Justin Fields throwing to? While on the other hand, you have Tua Tagovailoa, who is the most accurate quarterback, or one of the top 5 of the last 2 years that he's played. And, everybody always talks about his ADOT, his average depth of target. But, I mean, he's throwing to Waddle, Tyreek Hill, and Mike Gesicki. I mean, I feel like I could go out there after getting my shoulder surgery and toss to those two guys and still come out with at least 100 yards on the season. But, I mean, Waddle and Hill are both being ranked inside the top 15 everywhere. So I don't know how, he's just they're going to get the ball, direct snap. They're going to wildcat all year. It's stupid. He's not getting any respect. He deserves the respect. I think Tua's in for a strong year. Again, he's one of those make or break guys, though.
So,
Brian,
let
what
me
do you
kick this.
think, real quick? Let me ask you something, Brian, something real quick. So, everybody, I draft QBs late, so you're talking to me with this. And so, I look at Tua, a guy like you who's in that camp. What do you think the odds are that he finishes top 12 this year? Because that's what I'm worried about. And really, probably, top 8 or 10. Where do you put the chances of that in your mind?
So he's going QB 17. Oh, God, I feel like I need to pull up my ranks. The odds he finishes top 12, I think they're pretty good. I think I would slot him in for that 10 to 12 range. That's where
Okay.
I think I have him ranked. I think I have him as QB 11. So I think there's
You
a
got
really
him at
good
12,
chance
I
just
just
based on the weapons that he has there.
Okay.
Now,
Who
I
knows?
just
Maybe
want to go to
QB1.
Brand.
I've got
wanna-
something. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I wanted to go to you, Brandon, because I know that we mentioned Tyreek Hill earlier, so I knew you had some sort of feelings about this.
Well, I'm just curious, Brian, what kind of stock are you putting in the reports that Skylar Thompson has looked like the most consistent and best quarterback on the field for the Dolphins?
I'm putting no stock into that. None. I don't believe
I
it. They're
like
not gonna-
Brandon
they're
a
gonna
lot.
give-
This is good.
Tua is no matter what he's getting this year. This is his year. They're giving it to him. Now, if he completely flops like a dolphin and he, crashes and burns, then you're pretty much never going to see him again. He'll be in a backup role for the rest of his life. But no,
Okay.
I think they stick with him this year. They see what they got. I mean, they just got rid of Brian Flores to start Tua, basically. So I don't think they're just going to go away from that.
All right,
Brandon,
the
do you see a
second
chance
question.
he's the starter?
Since you're- Who?
Skyler.
No, not at all.
Okay.
No shot.
Okay.
But I just think it's noteworthy. Granted, we are in the slow period, but noteworthy that you're praising a 7th round rookie over what was supposed to be one of the best quarterbacks of the last 5 or 6 years.
Are they praising him over him,
but
or are they
to
just
that-
praising him?
No. Well, from what I read, they were saying that he was the most consistent and the best quarterback on the field. You could obviously take that as a lot of things. I wouldn't put a whole lot of stock in it, but just curious what you thought of it.
Fair question.
Cody, you were saying
And
something.
I'm also
and then we'll move on.
curious.
Go ahead, Brandon. Do your thing.
I'm curious. You made the comment about top 5 in accuracy. What kind of discredit are you giving to all of the talent he had at Alabama? You said you could put up 100 yards in a season. I'm fairly positive any of the 4 of us could have put up numbers like that at Bama. He had, 6 receivers go in the first round?
Oh, I'm
Dude,
sure.
they're
Yeah,
loaded.
they were loaded. But so this is just his 2 years in the NFL. His first year,
Okay.
granted, this
Okay.
is a very small sample size. His first year, he was first in the NFL in accuracy, and then last year he was tied for 3rd. And people always point to, well, he doesn't throw the ball very far, which is fair. But I mean, these are 2 guys that don't need the ball thrown far. So I think he
The
can
2,
repeat.
Waddle and Tyreek, you're right. They put weapons around him.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's interesting that you brought up, and I just want to kind of touch this, and I'm moving on, the Alabama quarterbacks, because, man, we have, I guess you could say 3 currently, even though Hurts finished at Oklahoma, in the league right now that are pretty much our only chance of seeing anything relevant from Alabama in the QB position in the last 20 years, in my opinion, at least fantasy and long-term relevancy. Brandon, I did want to check with you. Did you have any QB that you were buying for ADP, like any ADP QB bargains that you found?
Yeah, to me, it seems like a low-hanging fruit, but my bargain would be Trevor Lawrence. I don't understand the disrespect. Obviously, he had a horrible rookie season, but, we're still talking about the best quarterback to come out of the last 7 to 10 years, and everybody knows the abomination that was the coaching staff and the surrounding weapons.
Do you
He's
like the
going
weapons
at-
quite a bit overall?
No, not at all, but I think it's a massive upgrade over what he had last year.
That's true.
Absolutely true.
I don't disagree with that at all. But I think it's funny you talk about how he's like the best prospect to come in the last 7 years, because I mean they were like tank for Tua.
I don't agree with that, just for the record.
I'm just saying. I mean Tua was a huge prospect as well. So I think he's played 13 games. I think it's still a bit early for people to just be writing him off of one Twitter video where he underthrew the fastest guy in the league.
What the heck, Brian?
Honestly-
Were you going back to Tua? What about T-Law?
Brandon,
I
do you
think
think
Tua's problem is mental.
I mean, I'm ever could have a great.
Say that again, Brandon. I'm sorry.
I said I truthfully believe his biggest weakness is right now he's overthinking the game. He's not wanting to take the deep shot because of the last time he did. We all know what happened at Bama, and my God, that was the same injury that ended Bo Jackson's career. So you can't blame him.
Yeah, I want to
Andy
go back
doesn't-
to T-Law.
Yeah, just skip
I don't
me.
wanna
I don't
talk
need to
about-
talk
yeah, I
about
don't
Tua
wanna-
anymore. Just go.
No
go
more
past.
Tua from you, Brian. I do want to go back to Trevor Lawrence, and I mean they surrounded him with Evan Ingram, Christian Kirk. You get Zay Jones, whatever you want to make of that. You still have Laviska there, but
ETN?
this is all. That's my bias. I was building up to it because I think that is a game changer for his game. I think having the ability to dump it off, not saying J-Rob was anything like, he's not a slouch, but having the pass catching ability that ETN has, to be able to take it out of maybe -2 yards and go gain 11, that's going to be huge for Trevor Lawrence. So I do think that is kind of a low hanging fruit. He is another guy that in best ball, if I'm at where I'm like, okay, I'm going to get 2 QBs and then maybe even 3, I'm snagging him because he goes so late. And it's easy because I don't have this off the top of my head. He is very close to where Mac Jones is going. And to me, that's an easy one because I know that Jacksonville would rather throw the ball compared to whatever Bill plans to do in New England.
Yeah, I've got Jones going forced ahead, which is disgusting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here's the thing with Trevor Lawrence, as much as there probably is some upside there, to me at least, it's really 2 QB, super flex, and best ball leagues. I can't see a scenario where you go into a season thinking, hey, Trevor Lawrence is my guy for fantasy purposes in a standard 12-team league. What do you think there, Brandon? I mean, are you chasing him in 12-team leagues like that, or is this more, kind of an upside pick late? What are you thinking there?
This has got to be upside late or, like you said, super flex. There's no way I'm trusting him single quarterback.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Brandon, I'm going to come back to you. And did you have any RBs that you are getting for a steal with their ADP currently?
Yeah, again, these all seem like a low-hanging fruit to me, but apparently I'm in the minority. I would say Miles Sanders.
Uh-oh. You're in the minority, but I don't know if it's as much low-hanging fruit as Trevor Lawrence is. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, if my computer would load.
You need his ADP?
No. Yeah, actually, that's exactly what I was looking for. I mean, I've got him running back 29. Are there really 28 running backs you would take above him? I mean, the guy's good for 5 yards to carry every time he touches the ball.
I think it depends what you're looking for.
At that point,
Are you looking for
high risk, high reward? Looking at. I think he's ideal for 0 running back.
Yeah, the 0 running back draft strategy. Because the upside, he has probably more upside than a lot of guys going in that area at RB30. That's what I just pulled up was RB30. He's going about 70 overall. Yeah, I think that.
Give me that every time.
With 0 RB strategy, it's the TDs that everyone's afraid of. And he's not going to have a season where he has 0 again, but to have Jalen Hurts, who's going to be hawking it, and possibly Boston Scott, maybe some receiving TDs from Kenneth Gainwell. That's everyone's kind of hesitation.
It does have to come up, though. You're right, Mario. I mean, you look at last year. He had 137 carries. He had 26 catches. So you're talking 160 touches without a touchdown. That's crazy.
He's the Jacoby Myers of the running back room.
Yeah.
And Boston Scott had, and to your point, Brandon, 2
years previous, he scored 12 combined.
Yeah, and to your point, Brandon,
6 each,
Boston Scott had, I've mentioned this in previous pods, I think it was every 13 carries had a touchdown. He had 8 touchdowns on, I know I'm going off the head, and I apologize, but I'm pretty sure it was about 60 carries.
Wow.
Maybe a little bit more, maybe 70.
I hadn't given Miles Sanders much of a look at all, but Brandon's right, man. He has been incredibly efficient. I mean, 2 years ago, 5.3 a carry. Last year, 5.5.
87.
That's wild.
If you give him 250 touches, just touches, I mean, you're looking at a league winner to me, especially where you're going to get him.
I don't know if you want that, though. Because
no, wait, hold on. I don't think he's wrong in that sense, but I don't think there's a scenario where they do that.
Well, and he's missed 5 games last year, 4 games the year before that. I mean, I think it's one of those deals where if you get 800 rushing yards and 300 receiving yards and he finally scores some touchdowns, you're talking a top 24 RB, and you got to just be happy. And, probably a top 2018 guy. I think that's probably what you hope for rather than 250 touches because I don't know if he lasts. It hasn't been.
I think we like.
Oh, he's not
Miles
going to
Sanders.
last.
Yeah.
I think we like Miles Sanders more than the Eagles like Miles Sanders.
That's
might
a
be
problem
true.
too.
You think I
Yeah.
do?
No,
No,
us
no,
in gen-
we.
I
He said
mean,
we.
in general,
Yeah.
the Eagles seem to hate him.
Oh, my people.
Brian, I'm going to turn over to you to give us an RB bargain that you're finding.
All right. This is not a sexy one. Let me start with that. This is a very ugly one. This is a late pick that's, might be able to carry you through your league, especially like early on, and that is Melvin Gordon, who just re-signed with the Broncos. Currently, he's going running back crawl. Last year, he had almost 1,000 yards, 8 touchdowns, hour and a half yards per game. Javonte loves him. The Broncos love him. Melvin Gordon loves him. They, from all talking heads,
Melvin
it's
Gordon
just going
loves
to be another 50. Yeah, Melvin Gordon loves him. From all talking heads, it's just going to be a 50-50 split again. So, I mean, I could see him repeating what he's already done. Again, late round pick. I had him last year. He actually carried me to like the best record and late in the playoffs until I lost. But he's just a good, RB2 kind of numbers is what I got from him last year.
I think that floor is low this year, man. I think that floor is low. I mean, I know they signed him back, and it's nice in theory to think he's going to have the exact same role, but man, I don't know.
There's not much risk where you're taking him, though.
That's true. That's true. You almost don't care what the floor is at the price. You're right. You're right.
I mean, especially if you're a guy that's going out and grabbing Javonte, you'd be crazy not to grab him. I know he's not necessarily your ideal of a handcuff, but there might be weeks you could start both of them, and it sounds disgusting, but it's possible.
It is.
Cody?
Yes, sir.
Oh, I actually,
now that you've been talking about
let me cut Cody off real quick. I know I'm kind of delayed, but I didn't even notice that I had stats already written down. Last year, you got 9 games in double digits, and over 900 yards the last 2 years with the Broncos. That's all I wanted to say. Go ahead, Cody, take over.
He's like, I gotta get these stats out.
You want an RB from me, Mario? Is that what you're dreaming up?
Well, unless you had any response back to Brian's crazy stats about Melvin.
No, I mean, I'll let it ride. I guess, 9 games in double digits doesn't exactly blow my socks off, depending what the double digits looks like. If you're telling me he averaged, 11 and a half a game for 9 games and he was garbage the other 8, then or set whatever it is, it doesn't really get me excited overall.
Can we say that he was pretty much, and I say this not in the NFL perspective, but in the fantasy perspective, Melvin Gordon filled the James White role of last year in the sense of here's 10 to 12 points every week.
Different
not
player,
his play,
different role.
not his play.
Right.
Definitely not equating them to even similar roles in their offenses. I am only saying this in a fantasy perspective where James White, when you had him on fantasy, and this was before last year, he got hurt. He would average
for somebody
about 10 to 12.
Yeah. Who didn't draft an RB2. He came up clutch and was RB22. So I mean, he filled in, and like Mario said, it was like an 8 to 14 window. Occasionally, you got a couple 20-pointers where he'd have like 2 touchdowns in a game. Nothing sexy though.
Limited upside, kind of this solid floor.
I don't feel as good about the floor, but the risk is low at the price, so I get it.
Yeah. All right, take over, Cody. Tell us about your RB.
Yeah, Brian mentioned owning Melvin last year, and this is one I owned last year, and maybe we're just redrafting our same teams. That feels like a really bad idea. But mine's Leonard Fournette. 22 overall, RB11. Here's what I love about him. For whatever reason, people aren't buying that he runs it back. And Ronald Jones is gone. There's really not much competition for touches. He was running back 4 last year in points per game. He was RB6 overall, did miss just a smidge. So RB4 in points per game. The guy was like, we're not talking like, low-end RB1. He was an absolute fantasy stud in points per game last year. And the guy's being drafted as RB11. I'm not necessarily saying he's going to be RB4 in points per game again this year, but man, RB11 feels like his floor. If I can draft him at his floor, I love that spot every day. Just turned 27. He's younger than he seems, and he does it in both aspects of the game. You know, he only had 800 yards rushing last year, but he got 84 targets, 69 catches. He had 100 targets a couple years ago. The guy's actually a sneaky beast in the receiving game, and so I love when you don't have to bank on 1,300 yards from a running back in the rushing game. You know, he's a well-balanced player that I think is very, very safe this year, barring injury, of course.
Brandon, I'm going to turn it over to you on any thoughts on that. You love it? You hate it?
I love it. I think he's going to be criminally disrespected and undervalued come draft season.
You think it might slide a little bit further, which would even make it juicier?
I think there are a lot more people that are still sour from Jacksonville.
Agreed.
Dude, it's so funny because you guys
point.
just talked about – didn't you guys just talk about this sort of stench? I don't remember if Lenny was included in that, but you guys talked about how James Conner had a smell on him that people still feel sour about.
Yep.
And neither one
it's
makes
there.
sense because
Brandon's
they're
right.
both phenomenal players.
Yeah, I think the most concerning
Especially in
thing
fantasy.
is the change of coaches. Because Bruce Arians went into the front office. I think that's the most concerning thing. But I mean, Ronald Jones is gone, so that's huge. And like Cody said, I feel like at least last year, I felt like most of his points came through the air. Like if you're in a PPR league, he's a steal.
Yep.
When you guys are kind of like saying all this stuff, and it's making me a little bit nervous because Darrell Williams is there now, and he's another one that like people don't really buy on.
Those are words that no one's ever said. Darrell Williams makes me nervous.
I think he put up 1,000 yards last season.
He did. I just don't buy it. I know. He was – yeah. Do you think it's real
I'm thinking
threat?
the wrong team. No, we're talking about James Conner. I'm sorry. I confused this whole situation.
No, you're good. You're
My
good.
bad.
You're following.
Yeah.
Rashad White is there. Sorry.
The Rook, yeah.
The rookie. Does that concern you for his receiving work at all or no?
I think his biggest competition in Ronald Jones is gone.
No.
Mario, you're the low guy as far as our rankings go. You have him at 13. What's the hate? You're below. See, I think this ranking where he's being drafted is his floor, and you've got him ranked below there.
Yeah, my hate is obviously I don't know what team he's on, so we'll start off with saying that. But besides that, I am a brand new kind of car person. So when we're talking about Melvin Gordon, I'm over here biting my tongue like, no, I want Javonte. When we're talking about Lenny, I'm not necessarily going for Rashad White, but I'm going for any other back that I see with the high value, which and I'm trying to like tail that in, not tell everybody else to listen to me on that, because it crushes me sometimes in fantasy when I don't have these safe players. And I go for somebody that's a little bit riskier, higher upside. So my fault against Lenny is I don't necessarily trust that he stays healthy a full season. No RBs truly do. I mean, he played 14 games last year, so he missed 3. But I'm not necessarily buying it.
You're not buying that he'll stay healthy, you're saying, right?
I'm not necessarily buying that like he's somebody that I want with my second round pick. Like if I'm going for second round pick, I'm typically trying to hit a home run. And that is I'm not preaching that strategy. That's where I am, and that's kind of how I rank too.
Yeah. I look at where he's going, and I actually thought the same thing in terms of I try to think of, okay, so I'm looking end of the second round here. So, if I can get one of those top guys, let's say it's a Jonathan Taylor or an Austin Eckler, and then pair it with Leonard Fournette, I think that might be my favorite type of draft just with where he's being drafted right now, because I truly think you've got yourself a pair of top 8 running backs. And, I mean, that's about as sweet as it gets in fantasy football these days.
Sweet as pie.
All right, Mario, what do you got for us? Throw us one from yours.
We're going to quick hit mine. We're not going to even talk about mine. You're going to hate mine. I have 2. One is not being like super undervalued. Travis Etienne, of course, mentioned him earlier. We're just making notes of these. I don't need you guys to bash me. Damian Harris is my other one. I think there's such deep value there. Like if I was to go Melvin Gordon or Damian, I'm picking Damian because of the touchdown upside.
I agree.
Brandon, I'm going to kick back to you to get us your first wide receiver on your ADP bargain list.
All right. I'm going to, again, take a pretty lame name, but a productive one. I'm going to take Adam Thielen. All he does is catch touchdowns.
Let me stop you before you even get into your to your reasoning why. I just want to tell you, yours have not been lame. You can even Trevor Lawrence wasn't even lame, but if we're talking Miles Lawrence and Adam Thielen, those are guys that are getting criminally killed in ADP, and I'm ready to hear your points on Adam Thielen. Sorry.
Well, let me, as you say, I've been booted a couple of times, so I've got good quality backwoods internet.
Cody knows
all about it.
If you,
I do. I live that life.
Yes. I mean, if you look before his injury last year, the guy was dominant. He was playing as well. I would hesitate to even say this, but possibly even better than Justin Jefferson. The first 2 games he caught, 3, 4 scores? I don't have it in front of me. But it wouldn't shock me in the least bit if he's a wide receiver 2 for the entire season, assuming he's healthy. Trying to pull the stats up, but
no. Assumption is these guys will stay healthy. Of course, that's what we hope for. Thielen's a touchdown monster, and they have a new head coach
over the past 2 over the last 2 years.
Go ahead, Cody.
Yeah, I was just saying 24 touchdowns the last 2 years. I was giving you some stats for your statement there.
And Cody loves Thielen.
Yeah, and you have to assume that O'Connell will air it out more and get away from the grandpa style football of running every time they get inside the 5. Yes, pretty much.
It makes it interesting for Kirk Cousins too. And I'm known as like a Kirk Cousins believer, but I haven't been buying him in fantasy at all this season.
Hey, as Alex always says, Kirk Cousins, you take away the name and he's Dak Prescott. And you love Dak.
I do love Dak.
Yeah.
That's a stud.
The stats have always been there for Kirk. It hasn't always necessarily translated to fantasy, but I mean he's a nice QB. He gets a lot of hate, but he's a nice QB.
You know what's funny is that Rob has – so in our rankings even, Kirk Cousins and Dak are 15 and 16, or 14 and 15 probably. And it's because Rob has Kirk Cousins ranked 7th.
Yeah.
Which is very high.
He does have him very high.
Brian, did you have any thoughts on Adam Thielen? You a fan? You not buying at all this season at that ADP?
No, I mean, I might buy it. Especially like – Brandon said, wide receiver 2, I don't think that's out of the realm of possibilities. I mean, it was only like 2-3 years ago when he was a top 10 guy pretty consistently.
2 years. Yeah.
The only thing that worries me is 32 now. He's getting a little bit older, slowing down a bit.
He'll be 32 in August.
And I think he's been a little more injured in the past 2 years or so. But he's definitely got the talent. I mean,
His depth of target has decreased a lot too. Not to say that's a bad thing, but I don't think we ever really see Adam Thielen the 1,000-yard receiver again. But 10 touchdowns could happen for sure.
Brian, I'm going to stick with you to give us another wide receiver here.
Okay, fair enough. And another running back that I'm going to throw in there just for a second is Kenneth Walker, who's currently going RB 33. I think that's a potential league winner, especially with Rashad Penny already having soft tissue issues.
I love that
Good
one.
rhyme there. Chris Carson's gone. We don't really need to dwell on that. My wide receiver, though, is StatWiz's favorite quarterback's favorite receiver, which is Marquise Brown. He
no longer
was wide receiver 25. Or sorry, yeah, he was wide receiver 25. He's currently going in that same spot. I think he actually finished 22. Sorry. He's currently going 56th overall. There's no DeAndre Hopkins there for the first 6 games. He's been on a run-first team for his entire career, and he's been a stud while there. From the piece I wrote on Mark Andrews earlier in the year about how Mark Andrews loves his backup quarterbacks and how his backup quarterbacks really elevated his play, the complete opposite happened with Marquise Brown. When Lamar was out, he suffered extremely. I think his first 8 to 10 games, he had double-digit points almost every single one, and then I don't know if he finished with any in those last 6 games that Lamar was out. But he really suffered when Lamar was out. So assuming Lamar it's not Lamar anymore, it's Kyler now, and nobody else to throw to, I think Marquise Brown is going to be a steal. He's going to be a wide receiver 1, I think.
Wow.
Top 12.
Wow.
Cody, hate it?
How many
I don't
touchdowns
hate
is he
it.
dropping?
I wouldn't say I hate it. I would say the wide receiver 1 at the end surprised me. That statement surprised me. But I don't hate him where he's being drafted. No. What do you think, Mario?
Dude,
He's going
Rob
for it.
has him ranked at 54.
That's got to be a mistake, an accident on Rob's part.
Yeah, I think that's usually if we
He
miss
missed
somebody.
picking him. Yeah.
Brandon, do you have any thoughts on Marquise?
Just curious how many touchdowns you project him to drop this year.
Probably 2 or 3.
Hey,
Dropping
so
2 or 3.
So he'll play the Lions again, is what you're telling me.
Yeah, it was at the Lions that he had all those freaking drops. It killed me. I made a bet with Brian that week that I would have over 150, and I fell 5 short, and Hollywood was starting for me. So I would have crushed that 150 mark. If he got one of them, I would have passed it. Oh, man. And he would text me. So it's funny that he's on his list because he would text me at every drop. Hollywood dropped it again. Dude, it crushed me. I think it was a good sized bet, too. 20
Oh,
bucks
great.
or something.
Oh, great. And I'm playing both sides, so I come out on top.
Sounds typical of you. Cody, did you have a wide receiver for us?
Yeah, I got one for you. This is one of those where I don't think it's crazy value like some of these others might be. I just think it's a really, really nice spot to be able to pick him this year. And I'm sticking with the Buccaneers. I'm not a Buccaneers fan
Yeah, you
in
didn't
any
switch us
way.
up at all.
But it's Mike Evans. He's going 29 overall, wide receiver 11. 13 and 14 touchdowns the last 2 years. Chris Godwin, if he even starts the season, could be off for a slow start with the ACL injury, and I think it was week 15 he got hurt. It was late in the year. I think there's a ton of upside for a really, really strong start to the season for Mike Evans, and if you can get him as basically a bottom-end wide receiver 1, I think there's a little upside there this year.
Brandon, did you have any thoughts on that? Might be frozen. No.
I think it's a good value.
You were very still.
I like it.
Brian, you hating it? You loving it?
I'm not hating it. Mike Evans is quietly, I feel like, one of the most consistent wide receivers since he's come into the league. And as Cody pointed out, his touchdown numbers are extremely high. And ever since Brady got there, that's pretty much all he looks to in the end zone. It's either been Mike Evans or Gronk. So, no, I don't hate it. I think it's a really safe pick, actually. And I think he's most likely going to return you those probably low-end wide receiver 1 numbers. If Godwin's out longer, maybe even does a bit more. No Antonio Brown, so that helps too.
This one's one of those ones where we're all going to kind of lamely agree with you, Cody, because it doesn't make much sense to me. But again, it goes back to the exact same conversation that we were just having about Lenny and Connor. But Evans doesn't have that sort of stink to him. But what is the issue? Why do people refuse to draft him? The dude has finished, I wouldn't say in the last 4 years, top 10, top 12.
Yep, pretty much always. I think what it is
he's always dealing with a hammy issue, but he plays through it.
I don't think that's it. I think
what it is. Hold on, Cody, before you say
Cody.
it. I think what it is because
Brian
he's a huge dude who's 6'5", and people watch him run and they're like, he's slow. And it's just not the case. He's 6'5", but it's because he gallops across the field with those giant legs and massive tattooed arms. And He just brings it down.
I think part of what it is too is I think Mike Evans spent the early part of his career really, really highly hyped for fantasy. Mario, I remember you making bets about how many times he'd be like wide receiver 1 or something like that.
When he came out.
Like, yeah, that's what I'm saying. When he came out, like I think he was such a highly hyped player that even though he's been a wide receiver 1 a majority of his career, he's been disappointing in that sense. I think people just had this like unrealistic high ceiling for him that, this is a top 3 wide receiver for the next 10 years in the NFL. And I don't think he's quite become that. And I think that has left a little of that stink behind where people are like, it's Mike Evans. He never did it. He never made that leap to elite.
I think he finished wide receiver 2 one year.
He did. But
I think it's exactly what you alluded to, Mario, earlier about the new car smell, to be honest. I think it's just a matter of fatigue that people want those new names.
Yeah.
Same reason LeBron hasn't won the last 10 MVPs.
It's chasing upside big time.
Yeah, pretty much.
I didn't see any other tight ends on here. And Brandon, interrupt me if I'm wrong. If you had one, we can go to it right next. But I had Dalton Schultz for us for an ADP bargain. He's going tight end 8, which is 59 overall. It's kind of early for a tight end, but I'm actually surprised more in the fact that there's 8 tight ends going there. Fantasy points last year, he had 208, finished tight end 3. The dude is coming onto a team that had 165 vacated targets. So there's been history that the running backs, or there's not history. I'm afraid I can't think of the word. There's been research to show, there we go, that running backs will pick up those vacated targets. But you guys are messing me up with these chats that it's popping up on my screen. Anyways, I'm buying Dalton Schultz all day there. I get him in a ton of best balls right now. He's going after guys like Dallas Goedert, and I don't understand why. When we have a guy that has consistently fallen, maybe at the like 6 or 7 tight end.
Did you say Joe Dirt?
No, Goedert. That's my buy. I don't want to hear it from any of you guys. We're just going to move on to the fades. Can you guys stop hitting me up with the chat when I'm trying to give a spiel about Dalton Schultz? Thanks.
We're being helpful.
My love for Dalton Schultz was getting interrupted, and I don't appreciate it. I'm just kidding.
Okay.
All right. We're going to head off to our fades. And I'm going to kick off with you, Brandon. Do you want to start off with your QB fade?
Gladly. So my quarterback fade is going to be none other than everybody's darling, Joe Burrow.
Oof.
Oof.
We might disagree here, Brandon.
Elaborate. All right, that's what we're here for. So if you take his last 2 games and remove them, he threw for 3,600 yards and 26 touchdowns. I watched both games. That was literally like playing Madden. It was passing every damn play. That's not happening this year. There's no way I'm taking a quarterback ADP, the 6th quarterback overall, that did that. No, I'm passing hard. I'll let somebody else take that.
Cody's already angry. So go ahead, Cody.
No, I won't throw a lot. Here's what it comes down to. You bring up a fair thing, and I mean, quarterbacks do have these huge games periodically. I know Lamar's huge season. You're a Lamar fan, so you've lived it with Lamar, where he had like his 50-some point fantasy week. Now he did it differently, but those huge games, are they repeatable? It depends on the player. But to some degree, that's why you draft those players, is because they can deliver those types of games. I don't fade a player because of something that makes them value for fantasy. I'll chase them for that. And I just think in Cincy, the weapons are good enough that, is it going to be 500 yards and 5 touchdowns? Well, no, probably not. That's a fair point that Brandon makes. But with the weapons that are there, there's going to be monster games this year, in my opinion. I think the receiving core is the best trio in the NFL. So I struggle to fade this one. I don't draft QBs this high, so I won't own him. But I struggle to think that QB6 is the wrong spot for him. I don't think it's too bad.
No, I completely agree with Brandon on this. I don't see where Joe Burrow finishes QB6. It's just the dude doesn't run any. He finished QB8 last year, and I think people have a lot of recency bias with the last 3 games where he went absolutely berserk. The defenses are going to catch on a little bit more. He lost one of his guys. I'm not saying it's a big loss, so please don't hold me to it. But he lost Uzuma, I think they're going to have to run the ball a little bit more. Now, you could argue that like the offensive line being better might be a little bit better for him fantasy wise, but I'm right there with you, Brandon. This is a fade for me at 54 overall. When I could get other guys lower that run the ball, maybe have some higher upside.
You can get Marquise Brown.
And I think I kind of made this clear. I would fade him at 54 overall because I don't draft QBs there. At QB6,
but
it doesn't.
QB6.
Yep. I'm totally fine with QB6. Totally fine.
No, I don't see it, dude.
Totally fine.
Hard pass. Hard pass.
That's a hard pass for me too. Yeah. We'll keep it moving though. We're gonna go over to, I think this is Cody. Yep, it is Cody.
Yeah.
Who is your QB fade?
Yeah, this one's pretty easy for me. It's Patrick Mahomes. He's going 30th overall. He's basically trended down for fantasy purposes since 2018 when he had 50 touchdowns. Passer rating was actually under 100 last year. So passer rating doesn't matter much for fantasy production, but just in terms of the way his game's trending. Now, he's a great quarterback. This is not a knock on Patrick Mahomes. But I don't, you lose Tyreek Hill. Things have trended down fantasy-wise. Efficiency has dropped some. I think everything's kind of heading the wrong direction in fantasy from a fantasy perspective for Patrick Mahomes. Great player. I think he's a blast. I love him. He's going to be a top 3 QB in this league for another 15 years. But there's no way I'm touching him at 30th overall. No way.
Brandon, you had something that you said earlier, which is I think I have a low-hanging fruit. We can now give that award to Cody for grabbing the lowest hanging fruit. I'm pretty sure because I don't know
him there though. It's crazy.
The thing is, I don't know if and I'll go around the horn here. I don't know if any of us are going to disagree with this one because I can't see how anybody's like, yeah, I'm going to take him 30 overall, which is close to what he went to last year. Very close.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I don't see how anybody's doing that, but I'll start with you, Brandon. Are you doing that?
No, absolutely not.
Brian, are you doing that?
So in our me and Mario have this shared league where in our last 3 years, we've drafted Patrick Mahomes in like the second round, and we always end up doing terrible.
No, we didn't do terrible last year.
No, we did all right last year for the
but
first
I don't think
time.
we had Mahomes, did we? Or
please
we
tell me
Mahomes.
this is a super flex.
It
wasn't. It's not. It's something where we try some weird stuff, though.
What I'm getting at, we always just seem to be in a weird spot where it's like, okay, he's like the best guy available and we take him. But I think this will be the first year we don't own him. Unless he's sitting there in like the 6th for us, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Way.
There's no chance.
There was last year, I think we got him in the 4th, and I was like, Brian, we did it. We didn't spend a stupid high pick, which I didn't pick him this year. At that time, 4th round was okay, I thought, for Mahomes, and I think it was late 4th. I don't know. We get suckered into we got suckered into owning him so many times in that league. It just kept seeming like he would fall so deep.
We benched him for somebody a couple games. I can't remember who it was. Maybe like Dak.
Trey Lance when he started. I think it was.
There's no way Brian started Trey Lance.
I think it was Brandon.
I don't think it was. Move on.
We're going to go over to you with your RB fade.
This one will line up perfectly with what we spoke about earlier. My fade is Javonte Williams.
Those are fighting words for Mario.
If you look at the statistics just solely from efficiency and just bottom line numbers, Melvin Gordon was better in every aspect of the game. And they re-signed him, and that's not even factoring in the fact that Hackett has always ran a timeshare. If Javonte Williams was as good or even a fraction of as good as we thought or anyone thought, they would have gone nowhere near Melvin.
It's all you, Mario. This is yours.
I am so sad.
I mean, if you want proof, you look at the Kansas City game. I don't think any of us would disagree that Javonte probably looked like the best running back in football. for that game. And as soon as Melvin came back, 50-50.
Yes, I think the Melvin concerns are absolutely warranted because he is going to take a lot of shares from that backfield. But they brought in Russ, and you could say, okay, maybe they're going to go pass friendly, and Javonte is going to be kind of split between already limited rushing capability. But I see it as Javonte just has huge lanes that are opening up. The dude is going to be, if I'm not mistaken, 22, maybe 23. One of the things I said
Correct.
in
22.
in another episode is that he just runs through guys. He led the league second in the league for broken tackles. So he's just a monster. And I use that stat a lot. I know it sounds kind of lame because it doesn't relate to fantasy at all. But we're going to see a lot of defenses that are game planning towards Russell Wilson and their trio of, I consider, pretty good wide receivers. And then they're going to have to game plan against Javonte and Melvin, who have very different running styles and very different game. I think the big plays are going to be there. I don't know. I think the concern about the work is warranted. But, I love Javonte.
I don't think the coaching staff splitting carries is indicative of what they think Javante's skill level is. I think it's more just to keep him fresh for longer, which I honestly think
that's what Brandon said.
Yeah, for fantasy purposes, it sucks. But for real life purposes, it's genius, and I think every team should do it. But I do think Javonte is he might be the best runner in football right now.
Oh,
no, that's Chubb.
Mixon?
No, Nick Chubb, the best pure runner.
Nick Chubb. I think
Chubb.
I thought you
True.
We are Joe, and we said Mixon at the same time.
Hey, I actually think there's some Nick Chubb. I love Nick Chubb. We're all Browns fans, so we love Chubb. But Chubb's in another situation, just like Javonte, we're in a split situation. So
there are similarities there, actually. Javonte and Nick Chubb are very similar in a lot of ways. All right, we'll keep it moving because I know nobody wants to hear my Javonte love any further. But I could go on. We could finish out the podcast about me talking about him if you guys want. I don't remember. This is Brian. This is Brian's right here. Brian, tell us who you're fading at RB.
At RB, I am fading Alvin. He is currently going 8, which is crazy to me. It's so high. We've seen in the past, all of Jameis's career, he doesn't really dump off. He'd rather try to make a hero play, and it doesn't always turn out the best for him. Sean Payton's gone, so you're going to see a lot of mix-up with their play style and what they do with their running backs and everything. And then also you have the possible suspension. He was arrested for, I think it was domestic battery, right on the field at the Pro Bowl, I think, right after it, wasn't it? And so we might see the repercussions of that. Just a little too much surrounding it. I think he's a great player. I just don't think all the other pieces are lining up for this next year coming up.
I am curious to see. I want the thoughts of Cody or Brandon. Are either of you buying him at 15 overall, RB8?
For me, I would say I'm not as low as Brian is on him this year. But even saying that, I'm not probably buying him at 15 overall. That's probably still pushing it for me. I think, one of the higher guys in our group. I think I have him at, RB9. I could be convinced of 10 right in there. But I don't like 15 overall there all that much because I think there's a pretty good cliff at RB right after the guys like Dalvin and Lenny. I think there's a drop off before we get to some of those guys like Kamara and Swift and some of those personally. And so I'm probably not buying at 15 overall, but I wouldn't say it's egregious in my opinion.
Where are you buying?
I'm probably buying 18 to 20.
So just a little later in the season.
It's close. It's close. It's not egregious. It's not.
You're taking him if you're if you're 1 through 5, you're going to take him in the second if he's there.
I would be contemplating it depending what's there at receiver.
Are you not worried about a suspension at all?
I mean, mildly, but it's hard for me to adjust until I know something. I operate
Which
more
we're
in that
very
stance.
early in the year.
Yeah,
It is.
May.
I feel like it's a looming 4-game suspension.
I'm
If
operating
it
as
was
if there's not
August
one
and it
when I
was
say
looming,
that.
yeah, if it was August and this is looming, I think we have a different discussion. But I don't disagree with what you're saying, Brian. But I will find out hopefully before August. Brandon, would you buy there? Are you fading?
You said at 15 overall.
15
Yep.
overall, so early second.
Assuming there's no suspension, I would do that 9 times out of 10. Yes.
Oh, talent. This nothing. Go
He's
ahead.
talented. I mean, last year he finished running back 9, playing with 4 different quarterbacks, and the 4 of us catching passes. It can only get better in terms of what he has around him. You see all the weapons that they've brought in. That's going to open up. You spoke about lanes for Javonte. It's going to be the same thing for Kamara. You probably lose a little bit of efficiency, but yeah, I'm probably taking him if there's no suspension at that price.
There's a lot of uncertainty with Alvin Kamara when he's coming into the Saints offense where there wasn't Drew Brees last year. I get it. But we're going to have no Sean Payton, and we're going to have a ton of weapons that he didn't see last year. And he didn't really see when Drew Brees was there. I mean, he had Michael Thomas, so we're expecting Michael Thomas to be back. Chris Olave is going to be there. They signed Jarvis Landry. Loaded offense, so it raises some concerns about the targets that he may receive, but I think that's all I would have to say on that. Whose fate is this? This can't be Brian's. Cody.
It's me. Yeah, I
Yep.
don't even want to hear all of. I'm already dreading hearing.
I love
Brian's
it.
Response. So
I am so pumped.
It's Antonio Gibson. He's going RB18, 31 overall. I think that is,
and I think that's Brian's
just
face right there. That's Brian looking at you right there.
Here's my problem. He actually finished at RB10 last year, which looks great on the surface. But I think when you dig a little deeper on Antonio Gibson,
it's
a ton
crazy.
of red flags here. He was RB17 in points per game, but he had 300 touches. 300 touches, and you finish RB17 in points per game. You are incredibly inefficient and unproductive with those 300 touches. He was 4.0 a carry. He just wasn't very good. McKissick
What are you talking about? This is Washington CMC.
He obviously, McKissick was hurt. Only played 11 games, but they've re-signed him. So I think some of that receiving work goes back to McKissick. They've drafted a rookie. I don't see 300 touches again. I think it's closer to 250. And if he was RB17 in points per game at 300 touches, I don't want to see what he looks like at 250. I don't think it's pretty.
So, Brian, hold off on your response. Just hold it for a second because I know you probably have a lot to say. I just want to see with Brandon real quick. Are you buying at this ADP 31 overall or are you fading?
Fade.
All right, and then we're going to let Brian get into probably why
everybody
he's
grab
buying.
a drink.
Maybe
everyone grab a
Maybe
drink. It's
why
going to
he's
be a
buying?
while.
No, I don't have much to say about that. I mean, I feel like that's pretty fair. I have him right around 18. There's a couple guys I'd rather have. I'd probably rather have ETN. Josh Jacobs is safer. Those are about the only 2 guys. I'd much rather have Dobbins. But Antonio Gibson is very talented. And that comment I made about Washington CMC is actually something Ron Rivera said. And I don't know who's doing the drafting there. What? It's coach speak. Whatever.
Yeah, and he does it more than anybody.
Washington. Also, Cody, let me remind you that he did this with a shattered shin all year, that he still finished RB10. I think he's extremely talented. I just don't know if Washington's going to give him like you said, he's not going to get the touches he had last year. So, I mean, I believe in the fade. That's fine. I'm not fighting it. I don't even know how much of him I'll own. I just have him in Dynasty. So, he's still only like 23, 24. He's very young.
He is young.
And you talk him up.
McKissick's hurt a lot.
You're like, I got my RB1 for the future.
It's weird because he is a guy who plays through injuries pretty good. I'll give you that, Brian, because he does seem like he gets injured or banged up a lot to me. But obviously, I mean, I think he played 16 games last year, which at the running back position is pretty good. You know, when you look at he's RB17 in points per game in PPR, but finished at RB10. Obviously, he played more than the average running back for him to finish at RB10. So, I mean, he was on the field.
It's gross. I would fade that all day. I don't know for all the people that owned him, but if you did last season,
He was great.
It was not as fun a ride as RB10.
It was not. It didn't feel like RB10 ever.
No.
I mean, you definitely were sweating every
bottom of
week
the barrel.
if he was gonna be inactive or not. You were sweating on
Dude.
that. You're like, my God, he literally has a fractured shin. How is he going?
Watching
to run?
him wasn't fun either. He did not look explosive. It was he. I guess I'll say this, Brian. I did enjoy watching him at the beginning of the season. I think he broke off like a 79-yard reception, and that was before all the shin stuff. So maybe I just have that bias of like how bad you looked with your. What was it? Was it a fractured shin?
It was a fractured.
So maybe I have that
shin.
recency bias with that, but I don't know.
Or a hairline.
Isn't shin
Not that
splints
that's-
also technically like a fractured shin? Meh.
It was worse than shin splints, though.
I'm just joking.
It was.
I'm joking.
Also,
But I
shin
think
splints
that
are
is.
freaking
Shin splints are,
terrible,
yeah.
dude.
We won't start a health podcast right now.
We might get Stefan.
Give our medical diagnostic on
Another
things.
one.
You, my wife's a PT. You know she would moonlight on this podcast for injuries.
Oh my God, could you imagine?
She would love it. She would eat it up.
That would be great.
She would love
We'll
it.
talk about that after the show. Brandon, can we go to your wide receiver fade this year? And my God, am I excited to get into this one?
Sure. The number one wide receiver fade, I had a couple, but I ended up opting for Deebo Samuel. Last year was, my God, it was an outlier if ever there was one. You look at his yards per catch, 18.2, there's no chance he's replicating that. And just out of curiosity, and I'll pose a question to the three of you, 7 years since he enrolled in college, how many seasons has he had 900 plus receiving yards out of 7 years?
I'm gonna say one.
7 years plus. It's this year, and that's it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And you're going to
Yep.
take him, yes, sir, at a top 5 receiver? Or even once more, let's go a little further. He had more rushing yards or rushing touchdowns last year than all of college. He had 7 in college.
He had more than Miles.
We really think,
Sanders.
yeah,
had-
there you go.
He had 8
You
times
really
as many
think he's even,
Falcons.
yes. Do you really think he's sniffing even 3 rushing scores, especially with Trey Lance there? You're not playing with Jimmy anymore. That's going to be Trey Lance all day.
Dude, I love this one, I'm almost out of my seat out of excitement to talk about this. I didn't get to talk about it with Brian, Cody, and Rob the other day. I don't understand what people are seeing. I don't get it at all.
It's fool's gold, man.
It is insane to me that he's going 14 overall in ADP. It makes no stinking sense. The dude had an insane touchdown rushing rate, like you just mentioned, Brandon. He has never saw 900 yards, like you just mentioned, Brandon. And the fact is, he's hardly ever saw 10 games in this 7 years.
That's what I wanted to bring
This
up.
is the second season that he's seen 10 games.
Those,
I may get back.
yep, that's what I was going to say.
It might be the third season. But out of 7,
Second.
second, like it just doesn't make sense to me. What you mentioned, the yards per reception at 18 was 9th in the last 11 seasons. That's the 9th best out of a wide receiver with 50 more receptions. His yards after catch are a yard more than the best we've seen in 11 seasons with wide receivers with 50 receptions or more. None of it makes sense. He had insane numbers. You guys talk about the Joe Burrow sort of regression, the Jamar Chase sort of regression. This is the regression alert right here.
Hey, Cody has him ranked 8th.
You idiot!
So I'm not drafting him. So you mean I have him ranked lower than where he's being drafted? Yes.
Yeah, you
correct,
do.
I do.
There's
Still
I
too
don't
high.
know what it would. I don't know what it would. And Brandon, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to like get too intense there. I don't know what it would take for me to draft Debo. I don't know where I would draft him at. Is what I'm saying.
That's actually where I was gonna go with it. Where is it, Mario, for you? If you had to put a place on it, is it third round? Is it later than that?
Cody, if you told me he's signing with San Fran again, oh my God, I don't touch him. I just gonna be honest with you. Like the chances that he would go to like where I would touch him is where I draft him is probably not. It doesn't exist. Brandon, do you?
Yeah.
Where would you take him?
Overall, or as far as wide receiver rank?
If it's easier for you to go overall, probably
Either way
like
is fine.
fourth, fifth. I don't think he ever
I
gets
would
there. So it's almost like pointless for us to even
Hey,
say.
let's try this. Would you rather have
Yeah.
Jalen Waddle or Debo?
Oh, it's Debo for
Waddle.
me.
I would take
No.
Waddle for the
No.
value. I'm not.
I'd
I mean,
rather have
if you're-
Waddle too.
Oh no.
Would you rather have
No,
T.
we're not
Higgins
talking
or
for the,
Debo?
Hold up. We're not talking for the value, Mario. He's
T.
talking
Higgins.
if you're in a draft. There's no way you take Waddle over Debo. That's
Why?
you're
If
going
you
too far
put
with it.
him at his career averages for yards per catch, he's barely over 1,000 yards this past year. Are you taking that early?
No. I'm not taking it this early. I'm talking compared to Jalen Waddle.
No, I'm just saying
It's
in
just going
general,
too
not
far
you
then.
specifically.
Okay, yeah. No. I mean, I'm fine
Jalen
with
Waddle
fading
was a
him.
top
I'd
10
take
guy
Waddle
last
or
year. Him and
Higgins.
Tua have
Yeah, and
great
Jalen Waddle
chemistry.
has Tyreek Hill on his team now.
What's your point? They're going to throw a
What's
lot
my
more.
point?
They're going to
You
be
just lost
sustaining a lot more
1,300
drives. They're going to be an
Wait,
all-around better
hold on.
offense.
If we're asking Debo or Jalen Waddle, it's not happening though. That's not happening in any drafts right now.
No. It's not. It's absolutely not. I
Fair.
just like that hate is going way too far when you're having that conversation to me.
I think you're crazy.
Way too far.
It's weird that I'm like kind of agreeing with Brian, but you guys know how I mean, and Brandon might
Looking
be
at our-
even, like weirdly contemplating this shit too.
Looking at our group ranks, Waddle is at wide receiver 20 and Debo is at wide receiver 11, 12.
I
don't
think
it's
if
terribly
Debo went to
close.
another team, I don't know what I would think. I need to think about this more. Because I don't know where it is where I would be like, oh, that's a better situation for Debo. I don't think anything gets better.
I don't
nothing
mind the
does.
spot. I my
Are you
preference is he
talking
resigns.
team wise?
He's
Team
peaked.
role, nothing is appealing to me.
Team wise, Baltimore would make a ton of sense.
Then that even brings his value down a little bit more.
He doesn't want to run though.
Well, I think
That's what I
I think that's the only team that you're going to get 50 rushing attempts with all the smoke and mirrors. It wouldn't shock me at all to see them. They ran on Kadarius Toney, who is a Miller Lite version of Debo, but same style.
The fact that he said I don't want to run
I wouldn't do it
anymore,
because he doesn't deserve the bag.
I don't think he does
Doesn't.
either. He had one good season. He is out. He's out at
And
games.
what did he do in that
He's
one
out.
good season? He ran the ball, and now he doesn't want to.
I do want to kind of give him the credit where it is. Like obviously he's not watching our show, but
Maybe.
Cody and I have
It might be that one viewer.
Devo, you here? I just would love like watching those highlights was amazing. Like he made plays. He really did. But I don't know. Brian, close us out with your ADP fade. You have it under wide receiver.
Yeah, I know I have it
guess
under
you
wide
call it
receiver.
that. He's a reception.
My fade
Yeah.
is Mark Andrews. He was tight end 1 last year. I don't hate Mark Andrews, so let me start off with that. I just think that what he did last year is not happening again. I wrote a whole piece on this. You can check it out on our Twitter about Mark Andrews without Lamar Jackson. He actually performed out of this world in those last 6 games or the 6 games without Lamar Jackson. Did a lot better with Tyler Huntley, caught multiple touchdown passes and everything. And then, I mean, you basically have the same offense as last year, except they say they want to get back to that 2019 rushing offense. So I just don't think his current ADP is, and actually I've seen him in a lot going as tight end 1 sometimes even, which is ridiculous because I think it's just ridiculous to take him over Kelsey. But I'd rather have Kyle Pitts, George Kittle, who's going at 48, Kyle Pitts going at 33, Darren Waller going at 50. And I think those guys have a pretty good shot of finishing above or right at that same level of Mark Andrews.
Where is he in your tight end ranks, Brian?
In my tight end ranks, I think I have him 4 or 5.
Okay.
Oh, I actually have him at 3.
At 3, yeah. Because I'm guessing you probably I think your Lamar stuff's fair, and I think you probably hate the tight end 2 part less than you hate the 21 overall. 21 overall is steep.
Yeah, it is. I'm not drafting Mark Andrews. I'm not drafting probably any tight end in the 2nd round. 3rd round,
agreed.
I'll take George Kittle.
So you take, and you might already said this and I missed it. You take Kittle over Kelsey?
No.
He's saying he'll take him at the ADP though.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Oh, I got you. Yeah. Okay.
And actually, assuming that Trey Lance is going to be your starter, I might even fade George Kittle a little bit more. Because I just don't know.
You coming to the Dalton Schultz boat? You coming to the Dalton Schultz boat?
I don't know. He's holding out.
It's official. He's holding out. Skipping the voluntary OTAs. He's out.
Mario, what do you feel? You've always been a tight end guy, Mario. What do you think on Andrews?
I actually think he puts up similar numbers. That is a tough ADP though. I've been a big buyer of George Kittle, which is usually 27 through 29. This is early. 21 is 2-3 years ago Kelsey numbers, and then Kelsey moved closer and closer to the first round as how consistent he became. So this is tough. Andrews is young. He has this is the opposite of what we were speaking about earlier. He's young, he's flashy, he's got the upside, and he's produced. So he's got all of those positive factors weighing in on his ADP, making him as low as he is. It would really have to come down to the fact that there is a slight chance your RBs are dead and your wide receivers are dead at that ADP. Because I think it's funny that we mentioned this. In best ball, you kind of get to the Debo's probably falling right around there. You get guys like T. Higgins. So if you went Jamar Chase first, you're really not wanting to go T. Higgins on there. So it would really have to see if there was no RBs or wide receivers I like there, I'll buy. Okay. That's what I mean. Sorry. That was a long-winded response to say.
No.
I will buy if there's not a wide receiver or RB that I like. So if we were looking at Debo and Kamara as the top guys and there's not even a second or a third on each of those positions that I'm like, yeah, I don't really like those guys. I'm buying Andrews.
Yeah. Okay. Any thoughts, Brandon?
I would buy Andrews as tight end 1, to be completely honest. I don't see anybody challenging him.
Without
Kelsey
Hollywood
could, from
Brown.
a volume standpoint. Well, yeah, but that's going to be more targets, and they're just going to funnel it.
I agree.
Right back to the tight end like they did during Lamar's MVP season.
Yep.
I would take him tight end 1 without.
This offense definitely said, I want to run the ball and run our offense through Mark Andrews. And Rashad Bateman's going to be sprinkled in. I think Rashad will have a big year.
Big in terms of a Baltimore receiver. So, I mean, it's got a cap on it.
He's kind of a stud. I think we're going to see Rashad Bateman get to be a stud.
A lot of people believe he is already.
Year. I think maybe coming out or a breakout is possible. I don't know. I don't really see an outcome of stud this year for Bateman.
Yeah. All right. We have one more thing to wrap up with, and it will be probably less than 2 minutes. We do this. We wanted to do everything that with every guest that we have on our show, and then I'll turn this over to you, Brandon, to put in a plug again. With every guest that we have on our show, we want to make sure that we get their. Brian, how did you say it? It's our new.
We know who you're drafting on your Dad Bod squad. And of course, Dad Bod stands for the players that you are drafting actively, no doubt, before others do, aka DAD, BOD on that.
Brian,
squad.
we need a drop for this.
I'll make
We didn't
one.
need a drop. All right,
That is
cool.
phenomenal.
So we want to
The Dad
know
Bod Squad.
who your dad bod squad is for the year. I'm going to mark it down, and I don't know exactly what I'm going to do with all of our lists because you're not going to hear from me, Cody, or Brian today about ours, but we're all going to have one by the start of the season. So I want to hear yours.
Just name the 4 in order, or how do you want to do it?
However you want to present them.
They're your babies.
All right.
They're your babies.
They're
This is
my
your dad
babies.
bod squad.
Those unfortunate souls. God bless them. I would say the 4 names that come to my mind are Lamar Jackson, Justin Jefferson, DeAndre Swift, and I will go with a sleeper of Pat Fryermuth.
Nice.
Yeah, there's some
Like
Pat
it.
love out there.
I like Pat. He's a good player. Mitch isn't, but Pat is.
What do you safety blanket?
Yeah, I like it, Brandon. I like it a lot.
But well, you put his stats up similar or beside somebody you probably would like more in Dawson Knox, and they're eerily similar. And
I think that's
Fryermuth
fair.
was a rookie, and he only ran a route on 56% of dropbacks. So
That's the big one there. You know, if you
I
start
would like him a
playing
lot
and
more
suddenly-
if. Sorry, Cody. I would like him a lot more if Ben was still playing.
Brian, I don't know if Brian's delayed, but Cody was like a good 3 seconds into his sentence. And Brian's like, I
just
would like
shut
him a
up.
lot
Fine.
more.
Dude, honestly, Brian.
Dude, I've been
honestly,
delayed
screw
this
me.
whole
It doesn't matter. Forget
whole
me.
episode.
Whatever.
Cody, did you have anything to say before we close out here?
No, I don't matter. Let's go.
Yep, that's right. Okay. We got to get Brandon back on before we close. Brandon, where can everyone find you?
at Wiz.
STATWIZZ on Twitter. Look him up. He interacts with everyone. He'll give you great fantasy advice. Make sure you guys check out his page. For us, you can find us at DadBodFS, Dadbod Fantasy Squad on YouTube and Twitch. And then we will be posting our podcast to Apple Podcasts and Spotify, Dadbod Fantasy Squad. Everyone, thank you for tuning in. For myself, Cody, Brian, and Brandon, peace.
See you guys.